and your quarterback have to humble themselves and say, okay, if they're gonna nail down every crosser and they're gonna take away our shallows and whatever, then we're just gonna throw it outside just fun digs on comebacks and on back shoulders the whole game because it's Mike Hughes. We can do that, and they're gonna give it to us.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's a viable
say, okay, if they're gonna nail down every crosser and they're gonna take away our shallows and whatever, then we're just gonna throw it outside just fun digs on comebacks and on back shoulders the whole game. It's Mike Hughes. We can do that, and they're gonna give it to us.
At least compared to last year.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's a say, okay, if they're gonna nail down every crosser and they're gonna take away our shallows and whatever, then we're just gonna throw it outside just fun digs on comebacks and on back shoulders the whole game. It's Mike Hughes. We can do that, and they're gonna give it to us.
At least compared to last year.
But I don't know themselves and say, okay, if they're gonna nail down every crosser and they're gonna take away our shallows and whatever, then we're just gonna throw it outside just fun digs on comebacks and on back shoulders the whole game. It's Mike Hughes. We can do that, and they're gonna give it to us. But I don't know themselves and say, okay, if they're gonna nail down every crosser and they're gonna take away our shallows and whatever, then we're just gonna throw it outside just fun digs on comebacks and on back shoulders the whole game. It's Mike Hughes. We can do that, and they're gonna give it to us. I didn't take the money line, but I might still take the money line by Sunday. So I like the Bills.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, if Kansas City's offense plays well enough, if they score like 35 points, that's the thing. Every game so far this year, Kansas City's given up 29 points or more. And I kind of agree with Steven that if the game plan from that AFC Championship game translates, plus Ben, like you said, they've made additions directly corresponding to facing the Chiefs. They've upgraded a lot of their defensive line personnel, at least in pass rush. I kind of agree with. And look, if they play well enough, then, and again, I think it'll come down to the last possession, like Ben's saying, but the Bills have a legitimate shot in this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Chiefs. I really don't have any of the. I realize where the concerns are coming from with the defense, but I have faith in Spags. I'm at the point where they're the Patriots now, where whatever has happened in the past few weeks doesn't matter for the game that's coming up. It's a different game, and I think they're gonna have a game plan. I think it's gonna look like the game we saw last year when they played in the regular season, where I think the Chiefs ended up winning by a couple touchdowns. And the game was never close, and Allen struggled throughout. That's what I think it looks like.
Love the feeling of betting on Josh Allen against Patrick Mahomes. Feels great. I'm really psyched for it. Next game of the week, this is Cleveland Browns at Los Angeles Chargers. I think it's an afternoon game, Steven, 4 o'clock Eastern. Sorry, Caitlin, my bad, whatever. Okay. This is a fun one. 3-1. These teams want to be real in the AFC. Who's the realist? Who do we like?
I'm going with the Chargers. I hadn't watched much of Staley's defense since week 1, and I'm kind of mad at other people for not telling me how great his game plan was against the Chiefs. And maybe people just didn't pay attention to it because the Chiefs did move the ball, but I mean, Staley has been everything we wanted him to be. And I know if you look at the Chargers' defensive results, it's not going to reflect that. But again, it goes back to the Chiefs thing. He is doing just enough to win games, and he realizes he doesn't have the horses to be a dominant defense like he had last year. But he's built this defense that bends but doesn't break. They don't give up explosive plays. I think they are third in explosive play rate this year allowed. They give up, I think they're 20th in yards allowed per drive, but they're 10th in points allowed per drive. And it's easy to play this type of offense or defense against, the league over the course of a 16-game sample. But when you're doing it to the Chiefs and you're preventing Patrick Mahomes from killing you deep and throwing over the middle, the deep middle, which is where the Chiefs get a lot of their big yardage on crossing routes. I mean, you just have to take your hat off to him. He doesn't have the front seven to run this type of defense. He doesn't really have the cornerbacks. At least, I don't know. Asante Samuel might be a star, but we have to wait on that. And
no, we don't. Asante Samuel's a star. I love him to death.
And he's stopping these teams from doing this. Like, you look at the passing charts. I have the next gen passing chart up for Mahomes. There is nothing, no completions in between the numbers further than 15 yards downfield. And it's to the numbers. That's like where those crossing routes are ran. Nothing. Not even attempting passes. He attempted 3 and he threw an interception on one of them. Like, Staley is doing this was a Belichick type game plan he busted out for the Chiefs. And I know he got ran on by the Cowboys, but it was at the expense of defending the passing game. And Dak Prescott had a negative EPA for the only time all season. And they gave up yardage. I know they ran the ball. Cowboys controlled the clock, kind of. They only scored 20 points. And that's what Staley's doing. And I think he's going to do it against the Browns, especially with Baker Mayfield playing like he played last week. And it's kind of been a downward trend with him over the last few weeks. I'm not even sure it's close. It depends on how good this defense is. I think we're going to learn how good the Browns defense is this week. They're the ones that are going to keep this game close. And if they struggle to defend Justin Herbert, which I don't think it's a great matchup for them, I could see this being like a 14-point game.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the Cleveland Browns defense, because to me they've been a really fun unit thus far. But first, I do want to ask Steven. So explosive play rates allowed. So this is defensive stats. The Chargers are 5th best right now in the league in terms of explosive passes allowed, but they are 8th worst. They're 24th overall in explosive runs allowed. They allow an explosive run on 13% of their runs. Meanwhile, the Cleveland running game is producing explosives at a higher rate than every team in the league except for Philadelphia. And Philadelphia doesn't really count because they don't actually call runs. They just have like 6 total runs, and one of them was big. You know what I mean? Like, they're dumb. Okay, they're putting a roof on top of you, but they're not able to take away the big running game, right? Like, the Cowboys ran all over them at the expense of taking away the big passing play. Doesn't that play into Cleveland's hands?
Have like 6.
In theory, but Cleveland is going to run for a lot of yards.
They're putting a roof on top,
and I don't think it matters. We know running performance doesn't matter that much. It doesn't move the needle that much. So I think that's the trade-off Staley's making. He realizes what's happening on the ground. I don't think he's not dumb. He sees that his front seven cannot hold up like this. I just don't think he cares.
That's also my thought, right? It's like, all right, if Cleveland's able to end every drive with 7 instead of 3 and rip off that many explosive runs, they got perfect for 60 minutes, and they still have to stop Justin Herbert from outscoring them, which brings us to Cleveland defense.
That's also my thought. Right?
Everybody loves how they were built, and everybody loves the early results. So, Caitlin, have you seen enough from the Cleveland defense to believe in them at this point and to say confidently they're a top defense, or is this game against Justin Herbert the litmus test where they have to be able to stop his passing attack and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen in order for you to say Cleveland Browns defense can hang?
I think they can do the job. I think they can hang. I'm not like confident in them as being like an elite caliber group. But when you talk about, again, we just mentioned how the Bills identified their weaknesses up front. I think what Cleveland did in terms of adding Tack McKinley, weirdly enough, and even Jadeveon Clowney, like the way that those guys have performed up front for them has been exceptional. And then, honestly, we don't talk about, how good Johnny Johnson and Troy Hill are. And I feel like part of the reason the Rams defense, like not to get to them, but part of the reason why they've looked a little off, to start the year and become this bend don't break unit is because two of, the best veteran defensive backs in the entire league left to go play for Cleveland. And I think that their presence has significantly helped. I know that Greg Newsome and Denzel Ward already are two of the best cornerbacks, or at least Ward is already one of the best cornerbacks in the league. And I think Newsome is coming along pretty nicely for them. But their defensive unit has playmakers. They have enough stars. And I think that, if I was going to bet on them to keep things close in this one, I would trust them. I don't know, again, like you guys just mentioned, the offense in terms of Cleveland being able to pound the ball against Staley's unit. I think he mentioned the other day, and actually Drew Tranquil talked about it yesterday, like Staley talked to them about how Chubb and Hunt lead the league, I guess, in fourth quarter yards after contact. So they are keenly aware of the fact that Cleveland's going to be able to pound the ball against them. But if Cleveland's defense is unable to stop Herbert and co., then, I mean, this is kind of a moot point.
Here's why I think this is very good. Here's why I think it's a bad matchup. Because they are another one of these teams that is kind of molding their defense after the Fangio-Staley model.
Agreed, yeah.
I think the strength there is, like we've said before, like picking up crossers, stopping in-breaking routes over the middle, over the deep and intermediate parts of the field. Do you know who's not running those type of routes to a fault? The Chargers.
Joe Lombardi.
Yeah.
Joe Lombardi. Justin Herbert has the most play action attempts that get thrown outside the numbers. He is third highest in terms of percentage of throws that are targeted outside the numbers compared to over the middle. So the way you kind of beat this type of defense, these types of coverages, is with those intermediate outbreaking routes, working away from the leverage of the defensive backs. And do you know who has the arm to make those throws and has been making them all season? Justin Herbert. I really think that Cleveland is going to have to change up some of their coverage systems in order to deal with the route concepts they're going to see, which are not like route concepts you see from every other team. And it may throw off what they do on the back end, or they're going to play with the same coverages they have been playing, and Justin Herbert is just going to kill them with deep out routes all game long.
Yeah, it's funny, honestly, because I know you and I have talked about the Joe Lombardi offense and how we're not like super huge fans of how it looks to this point, but also it's positioned very nicely to be a good counter, a good zag to the zig of all these too high defenses, right? These too high quarter structures, off cover corners, they're going to give you deep isolation routes to those receivers outside of the numbers. I'm not sure Lombardi's building it this way because he saw that and he was like, aha! I think maybe he kind of stumbled into it a little bit. But when you have a quarterback like Herbert, and critically in this game, what I'm really interested in is a receiver like Mike Williams, because I would have told you before the season, Denzel Ward is a very good corner. I would have told you he's a tier 2 corner. Through 4 games, he's pushing into tier 1. He's taking that very difficult step from very good to elite, in my opinion. He's 5'11". Troy Hill's 5'11". Greg Newsom's 6 foot-ish. Mike Williams is 6'4". They don't have a big body at corner. They built this team to be quick. They built this team to be fast. Mike Williams does not need to outrun you or outquick you to beat you because he can just take it off your dome. And we didn't see a high target game for him last week for the Chargers, but we've seen the Chargers and Justin Herbert funnel him targets in those situations. So, yeah, he can snap guys off and he can be great releasing at the line or whatever. But even if Denzel Ward gloves him up, to me, again, it goes back to what I said about the Bills and their need to have a ball winner. The Chargers have a ball winner in Mike Williams. And if the Browns are really good in coverage, awesome. The other thing that matters, which I just think needs to be mentioned in the Browns defense, is the fact that they have 3 defensive ends right now in the top 10 of ESPN's pass rush win rate. That's Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, and then also Tack McKinley, who's looked fun for them. And then Malik McDowell, who's their interior rusher, a tremendous reclamation story, is top 10 among defensive tackles. They are extremely game-heavy, twist-heavy, stunt-heavy, blitz-heavy. Excuse me, not blitz-heavy, but all the other things I said before that. They do a lot of weird stuff up front. And they cause problems. They put Garrett and Clowney on the same side. They are a nightmare to communicate through. It's still a pretty new Chargers line. The interior is not that great. We've seen them struggle picking up stunts in games. It could be a high-pressure game for Cleveland, which I'm kind of banking on. I do think the Browns' defense is going to do a better job slowing down this Chargers offense than I think Steven, you might, or Kalen, you might. I still probably lean Chargers in this one, but I think it's a close game.
Here's the thing about the pressure. And Ben, I think you brought this up. I don't know if you brought it up on a pod or somewhere else, but you brought up the idea.
We talk way too much, so there's no way of knowing.
Right. The 3-legged stool of quarterback play and how that kind of like dictates the quarterback style under pressure. And the 3 stats are yards per attempt, sack rate, and interception rate. And usually there's a trade-off. If you have a high sack rate, it's probably because you're willing to stay in the pocket and hold onto the ball and wait for receivers to get open. If you have a low yards per attempt, you're probably checking it down immediately. Here's the thing about Herbert. The man is immune to pressure. he ranks well in all three of those categories. He's the only quarterback since 2020 who ranks in the top 10 of sack percentage under pressure, interception rate under pressure, and EPA per dropback under pressure. The way he handles pressure is unlike anything we've ever seen in this league. He doesn't make any trade-offs, and he's just so good at it that I don't think it will be as big of a problem as it is for other teams who have to deal with this Browns pass rush.
So you're on Chargers as well?
Yeah, Chargers win.
I think Steven thinks that Justin Herbert can single-handedly beat the Chiefs offense and the Patriots defense fusion dance, man. Just put 22 Justin Herberts out on the field.
I have faith in the second best quarterback in the league. I know I said first last week, but that was in an NFL where Geno Smith wasn't starting.
Okay. Kalen Jones, who do you like?
I got the Chargers, and like Steven's saying, I have a lot of faith not just in Herbert but in Staley, man. Like in terms of being a coach who understands one, his personnel, and then two, like the men in the locker room. Like there is something to be said for the way that he knows how to distill information and serve it out. And I know that there's been a lot of effusive praise for Brandon Staley this week, and I think it's all deserved. I know that some people think he should get credit to his predecessors and who he's borrowing from. That's all true, but Brandon Staley is the one who is in position right now and maximizing this Chargers team, which is 3-1 right now, top of the AFC West.
No. I greatly appreciate Brandon Staley's communication in a football world, mostly because he and I look like we could be brothers. I am stunned we got through that segment without talking about Baker Mayfield's quality of play against the Minnesota Vikings, but no bad.
Hold up, I just realized something.
What's that?
Did you have to wear the Iowa hat?
No, it was just the hat. It's the hat I had.
You had to do them after they destroyed Maryland's undefeated season.
Oh, yeah.
And I see like 5 hats in the background that you could have used.
Yeah, there's
one
like
instead.
20 more in the closet, but we just close our eyes and grab one. My game of the is the Arizona Cardinals against the San Francisco. Remark that they didn't have the game plan in place that they would have liked to have had if they knew Trey Lance was going to start. Now, they still did cool stuff. Very clearly borrowing from the Ravens. We're going to live in pistol. Pistol alignment where it's a shotgun snap, but the back is still behind the quarterback means that I can have a mesh point go to either side of the formation. I could be zone reading to the left. I could be zone reading to the right. I could still pull guys. They would have Kyle Juszczyk as a fullback. They'd use him as a split zone guy. They'd use him as a polar on power and counter. They can do a lot of things with Trey Lance in the backfield. And then all of a sudden, it's a play action pass. Seahawks secondary has a miscommunication, and you throw the easiest touchdown of your entire life to Deebo Samuel. So while the game plan wasn't exactly what maybe they hoped, a week of prep, this is what you should look for on defense, yada, 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 it still was evident how Lance's running ability could help this San Francisco offense in general. Now, we enter the week after Jimmy Garoppolo says, following the loss, I hope it's just a few week thing. So you're like, he knows that he's out for at least a week or two. We're going to see Trey Lance start. Shanahan says on Wednesday that if Jimmy can't practice today, then he won't start on Sunday. And then Jimmy doesn't practice on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, Shannon's like, hey, he might start on Sunday, which is, you were lying, which is just what Kyle Shanahan does.
He is lying. He's lying.
Yes.
I don't know. Lance is starting. Don't
Right.
even look into it. He's lying.
And Garoppolo didn't play on Thursday. Our latest reports say he's going to try to play on Friday. We're recording this Friday morning. And if he's going to try it out in practice and see how he feels, and maybe that'll decide who plays. All of this to say, you got to let me get through the disclaimer. I think Trey Lance starts on Sunday. And they face the last undefeated team, the Arizona Cardinals, 4-0 off of a statement win against the Los Angeles Rams. And you're looking at a 4-0 team that just came off such a huge win, and they're facing a rookie quarterback in his first start. They've got a blitz-happy defensive coordinator in Vance Joseph. This all sounds very hunky-dory. We're going to go win ourselves a football game. But not so fast, a little Lee Corso for you. I think Trey Lance legit has a shot to beat the Cardinals in his first career start, which to me is the reason why this belongs as a game of the week. The Arizona Cardinals defense right now is struggling in the running game. They were beat up by Shanahan when Vance Joseph was the DC in years past in the running game. They're last in the league right now in explosive rushes allowed, which they give up an explosive run on 18% of the running plays they face. That's 2 out of every 11. And Shanahan's going to run the ball more than 11 times, so just keep that in mind. On EPA per play allowed, they're 5th worst in the league. By positive play rate allowed, they're 3rd worst. They especially struggled against mobile quarterbacks last season. 5th worst EPA per attempt on QB designed runs. 4th worst on option runs. 4th worst on QB scrambles. They have yet to face a running quarterback yet this year, and they've already been really bad in the running game. They're really bad in the running game because, number one, they're very light. You're playing Marcus Golden as a stand-up edge. He's going to get moved off the ball. You know what I mean? Isaiah Simmons, Jordan Hicks, Zaven Collins is big, but those are their 2 starting linebackers. Those guys get moved off the ball pretty easily, and they play a ton of man coverage. When you play man, you got to run with motion. You got to send guys across the formation. It becomes a lot more difficult to adjust to motion at the snap runs, which is what the whole plane is built out of in San Francisco. And when you play man, the quarterback drops back. All of the defenders turn their back to the defense, to the backfield. They aren't looking at the quarterback. So the quarterback tucks and runs. You don't realize it until he's already down the field. So I don't think the Niners need to be able to pass the ball very well to put a ton of points on Arizona's defense. I think this can be an extremely run-heavy script. Kid gloves on Trey Lance, and they're still going to be able to move the ball down the field. I think they're going to be able to dominate in time of possession. And then it's going to become how much can your defense take away from Kyler in this offense. I'm not really sure that if they have the personnel to do it, but at the very least, this can get into a high-scoring shootout. If you get 1 or 2 lucky stops, if Kyler regresses a little bit, if Cliff makes a game management error, all of a sudden you're in this game. So it's a 5.5-point line. It's viewed as a rookie's first start. I get why there's gas on the Cardinals right now, but to me, we could see this Shanahan offense that we've all been dreaming about with Trey Lance really, really, really start off with a bang if he starts on Sunday for the Niners.
Yeah, I watched that Cardinals-Rams game yesterday, and I was worried that the offense was too Kyler-centric before. On Sunday, that was every play. It was just Kyler go make a play. It seemed like every pass that he completed, every big play was him scrambling around and throwing downfield. Eventually, the luck. I mean, it has to run out. Like he's not going to be able to do this all year, right? I'm not calling it luck because Kyler's an amazing player. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I thought he's one of the best prospects in the last 3 years, but I just don't know how this is sustainable. And this isn't even like an anti-Cliff thing because I think Cliff gets too much criticism for his offense. I think he deserves all the criticism for the game management stuff, but I think the offense is a little bit better than people give him credit for, especially in the run game. They're still doing a bunch of cool stuff every week. But for the 49ers, I feel like this is just contained Kyler. And I know the defensive line hasn't been as good as it has been in the past, 14th in pass rush win rate, but I don't think that's the goal here. It's just keeping him in the pocket. And I think they have the mechanisms to do that.
Yeah. I really wish ESPN had picked something easier to say fast on a podcast than pass rush win rate, which just has way too many rah sounds to actually get out of your mouth. But yeah, Kalen, you wrote about this Cardinals team. I think everybody thinks they're playing well, and there's good stuff, but maybe 4-0 is a little bit of a lie. Are you worried about this week, or is it just going to be more so a different game down the road against a more established contender?
I'm absolutely concerned this week, and I don't believe, they're as good as the record indicates. I think last week we saw, if anything, we saw that the Rams didn't give their best shot. We saw Matthew Stafford completely have his chemistry with his receivers had been sporadic through the first 2 weeks to begin with, right? Or the first few weeks. He had missed on several big open throws, but the ones that he hit is why, me and everyone else in media was freaking out. It's like, wow, that's what the Rams offense was supposed to look like. Then we saw the well kind of run out against the Cardinals last week. So the fact that they didn't really hit on those big plays allowed Kyler Murray and the offense to stay on the field for as often as they did and give up those big plays to Kyler last week is why, the Cardinals, are getting a effusive praise for beating what many of us consider the top team in the league. I am concerned, though, Ben, like you mentioned a really good point. Like the fact that the Niners do such a good job using motion before the snap and are able to struggle defending that against the Rams. Like he mentioned that, and he joked about how he couldn't share what tweaks they did schematically to defend that in the second half and stop the Rams from being effective in terms of their off-tackle run game. But they had an issue with it in the first half. And if the Niners are able to effectively do that with Trey Lance running the script as opposed to unmobile, statuesque quarterback in Matthew Stafford, I think it opens up everything in the run game, and it really does take away from what Kyler and that offense is able to do. Because the reason why they beat the Rams in the first half so badly is because they kept getting opportunities on offense. That won't happen against the Niners this week.
That's the thing. The best way to adjust to motion at the snap running plays is to have a 17-point lead in the second half. You don't got to worry about them as much anymore.
Yep.
Yeah. So Byron Murphy hasn't practiced, or excuse me, he was a limited participant on Wednesday, out for Thursday practice. Chase Edmonds hasn't practiced for 2 straight days. Very important pass catching back for the Cardinals. They are also beat up. I know everybody likes to talk about the 49ers, but I'm fine with Lance starting, and they probably are getting Elijah Mitchell back for this game. I think he's a very important, explosive running back for them. I think the 49ers beat the Cardinals, and I'm very worried about having that opinion, but I do. And I think at the very least, we're going to have a lot of fun watching that offensive film. If the stuff they were doing against the Seahawks was not the whole game plan, boy, I don't know what they've got in store. Trent Williams had a quote where he was like, yeah, the game plan on paper looks fucking amazing. Which Trent Williams is like the best run blocking tackle in the league, so I'm not surprised he's like super stoked about it. But Williams has been around the league for a hot second. Williams played, RG3 offenses in Washington. Like it's, he seems pretty stoked. I'm pretty stoked, so I like the Niners to win it.
The game plan is just a picture of Isaiah Simmons.
Right. Isaiah Simmons had his first start at linebacker in the NFL against Kyle Shanahan. It has only gone up from there, literally. But I do think, he's going to get picked on a little bit in the running game as well as the passing game in this one. So, Niners or Cardinals? Steven, going to be a coward?
I'm going to say Cardinals still win, but I think it's close, and I think Trey Lance has a big game. I think Kyler ends up outplaying, doing just enough to win the game, but I do think it's close.
I'm taking the Niners.
Buddy.
I'm taking the Niners. I think they're going to run them over.
Yeah, listen. Just stay out of 3rd and longs. Every time you avoid a 3rd and long, it's a win on the drive, win time of possession, win field position, and then, thumb your nose at the nerds after the game when you win 17-16. Games which need games. Our second segment, not as good of games as Games of the Week, but still kind of good games and fun games to talk about for different reasons. We usually have Steven cancel a team. We have some thoughts and prayers. We do some timeline therapy. We have 5 games on the docket this week because it's kind of a weird week. It's a little bit sleepy after the big games of the week. But our must-win watch, Steve.
I mean, the 3-1 Panthers?
Yeah, 3-1. You got to win. The NFC's tough. You're not winning the division because the Bucs are in it. I want you to prove to me that you're a real team. You can beat